Chelsea are at a crossroads and nobody seems to know which way to turn. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat down to watch Chelsea play and felt genuinely excited about what you were going to see? Not nervous, not frustrated, not wondering which manager would be next, but truly excited. If you are struggling to remember, you are not alone. Because right now, Chelsea Football Club is in a strange place. A club with so much money, so much talent coming through, and yet somehow still managing to find itself in sixth place with 7 games left and Champions League football slipping through their fingers. But this week gave us a lot to talk about. From John Terry opening up about why Mo Salah never worked at Stamford Bridge, to Thomas Tuchel dropping a bombshell about Enzo Maresca, to reports that Cesc Fabregas could be walking back through the doors at Chelsea as manager, and Alan Shearer telling anyone who would listen that the whole plan at Chelsea simply does not work. There is a lot going on, so let us sit down, break it all apart, and figure out what is really happening at this football club. John Terry speaks on Mo Salah, and it tells us a lot. The whole conversation started when John Terry posted a video on his TikTok account after hearing that Mohamed Salah had confirmed he would be leaving Liverpool at the end of this season. For most Chelsea fans, Salah is a bit of a painful name to hear. He was there, he wore the shirt, and he barely played. In the video, Terry was honest in a way that you do not always get from former players. He said that when Salah was at Chelsea, he was very young and very raw, and that he simply did not see him reaching the levels he eventually reached. He also said that back then, Salah was not ready to come into that Chelsea team. And if you look at the facts, it is hard to argue with him. Salah arrived from FC Basel in January 2014 when he was just 21 years old. Chelsea paid around £11 million for him. He came into a team that already had Eden Hazard and Willian, 2 players who were performing at a very high level. Jose Mourinho had a very specific way of playing, and it was a tough system to fit into. Salah made 19 appearances for the club, scored just 2 goals, and by early 2015 he was sent on loan to Fiorentina. He never came back. Eventually he moved permanently to Roma, then of course to Liverpool, where the rest is history. Now here is the question that every Chelsea fan should be asking themselves. Was it Mourinho who got it wrong? Or was Salah simply not ready at that point in his career? Because the answer matters more than people think. If it was purely a case of a young player needing time to develop, then Chelsea cannot be blamed too harshly. But if it was a case of a manager not giving a talented young player the chance to grow, then it tells you something very uncomfortable about how Chelsea have handled young talent over the years. Terry seemed to lean toward the first explanation. He was generous about it. He called Salah an absolute legend and wished him well. He even compared Salah leaving Liverpool to his own experience at the end of his Chelsea career, saying that it is important for a player to be in control of when they go, rather than having the club make that decision for them. That was a classy thing to say, and it is clear that Terry has a lot of respect for what Salah has built at Liverpool, but it also highlights just how much Chelsea missed out on. A player they had, a player who needed time and patience, and a player who went on to become one of the greatest in Premier League history. Does that sound familiar? Because it has happened more than once at this club. Thomas Tuchel just said what many Chelsea fans have been thinking. While we are talking about regrets, let us talk about Enzo Maresca, because Thomas Tuchel, who of course managed Chelsea himself and won the Champions League with them in 2021, came out this week and said that Chelsea made a big mistake letting Maresca leave. Think about that for a second. A manager who knows the club very well, who understands what it takes to succeed there, looked at the situation and said the decision to let Maresca go was wrong. Now, the way the situation played out was not exactly clean. Maresca did not get sacked, he walked away. Reports at the time said he had a falling out with the hierarchy at the club. He was not happy being treated as a figurehead rather than the person actually making football decisions. And given what we know about how Chelsea operate, that is not exactly a shocking story. Look at the comment from one fan in response to the Tuchel story. They pointed out that Chelsea had a great manager forced out because he was not happy being a figurehead. Another fan said that Tuchel himself left Chelsea because the sporting director told him which players to sign. The pattern here is not hard to see. And here's the thing that makes this story so frustrating. Maresca came to Chelsea with a clear idea of how he wanted to play football. His teams press high, they move the ball quickly, they are organized and difficult to break down. He had real success at Leicester City in the Championship and showed he could work with young players. For Chelsea, who are trying to build something with a lot of young talent, he seemed like a good fit, but it did not last. And now Tuchel is saying out loud what a lot of people were probably already thinking quietly. What does it tell you about a football club when a manager who has seen it all, who has managed at the very highest level, looks at your situation and says, "You got it wrong"? It tells you that the problems at Chelsea are not just about results on the pitch. They go deeper than that. Liam Rosenjor is in trouble and everyone knows it. So where does that leave Liam Rosenjor? He took over from Maresca in January, coming in from partner club Strasbourg. He started reasonably well, which gave people some hope. But the last month has been very difficult. 4 defeats in a row. The most recent one was a 3-0 loss away at Everton, which is a result that is hard to explain no matter how you look at it. Everton have had their own struggles this season, and losing so heavily to them is the kind of result that makes people start asking serious questions. Chelsea are now in 6th place with 7 games left. The top five are guaranteed Champions League football. That means right now Chelsea are outside of where they need to be. And with the kind of money this club spends, that is simply not acceptable. Now, to be fair to Rosenior, there are some important things to keep in mind. He did not choose to come into this situation. He was brought in mid-season after Maresca left, which is one of the hardest jobs in football. You have not preseason with the squad, you have not had time to build relationships or install your ideas properly. He also came in knowing that the squad had been built with a very specific way of playing in mind, and changing that quickly is not easy. There is also a report from journalist Nizar Kinzela suggesting that internally there is no talk of Rosenior losing his job. The club apparently have strong support for him, and he has been involved in transfer planning for the summer. His contract runs until 2032, which shows a level of commitment from the club. But here's the question you have to ask. Does support from the board translate into results on the pitch? Because at this stage of the season, results are all that matters. If Chelsea miss out on Champions League football, it will have major consequences. Players may want to leave, transfer targets may go elsewhere. The financial model that the club has been building depends on competing at the highest level in Europe. Missing out would be a serious blow. So what do you think? Do you believe Rosenior deserves more time, or has the recent run of results shown that something needs to change? The Fabregas story is getting very interesting. Now let us talk about the most exciting piece of news to come out of the Chelsea world this week. Cesc Fabregas, who is currently doing a brilliant job as manager of Como in Serie A, has confirmed that he spoke with Liam Rosenior about the possibility of joining Chelsea this summer. His exact words were direct and warm. He said he spoke with Liam, that they had a good chat, that Rosenior is a very good coach and a good person, and that they discussed different things about football and about the project at Chelsea. No formal offer has been made yet, but the door is clearly open. Now, Fabregas as Chelsea manager is a concept that gets a lot of people excited, and it is not hard to see why. He played 198 games for Chelsea from 2014 to 2019 and scored 22 goals. He won 2 Premier League titles and the Champions League with the club. He knows Stamford Bridge inside out. He understands the culture, the pressure, the fans, and what it means to play for that shirt. But more importantly, look at what he has done as a manager. He joined Como when they were in Serie B, a division that most top-level footballers and coaches would not look twice at. He guided them to promotion, finishing second in the table. They have since adapted incredibly well to Serie A, and right now, at the time of writing, Como are sitting in the top 4 of Serie A, above clubs like Juventus. That is a remarkable achievement for a newly promoted club, and it speaks very highly of Fabregas as a coach. He is 38 years old. He is young for a manager. He is clearly intelligent. He has ideas, and he is not afraid to go his own way and build something from scratch. If Chelsea could bring him in either this summer or at some point in the future, it would generate a huge amount of goodwill from the fans, and in a club that sometimes feels like it is disconnected from its own supporter base, that matters. Team Talk reported this week that Chelsea lined up a move for Fabregas if they decide to part ways with Rosenior. That report has sparked a lot of conversation. Would you want to see Fabregas take the job? And if so, when? Alan Shearer has a point, and Chelsea need to listen. Finally, let us talk about Alan Shearer, because he said something this week that cuts right to the heart of what is wrong at Chelsea right now. Shearer told Premier League Productions that he is not a fan of Chelsea's model of buying young players, giving them long contracts, trying to develop them, and then potentially selling them for big money. He said he does not believe this model will bring the kind of success Chelsea are looking for. He also said that the minimum expectation at the club is Champions League football, and that the way Chelsea are currently operating makes it almost impossible for any manager to achieve that. And he is not entirely wrong. Think about it this way. When you build a squad almost entirely of young players who are still developing, you are going to have inconsistency. Young players make mistakes. They have bad runs of form. They need time and patience. But at a club like Chelsea, where the pressure is enormous and results are expected immediately, that patience often runs out before the players have had the chance to fully develop. Some of the young signings have been brilliant. Estevão Willian looks like a real star. Andre Santos has impressed. There is excitement about Giovanni Quenda and goalkeeper Mike Penders, who are both arriving this summer. These are players with genuine quality. But building an entire team around this philosophy while also trying to compete for Champions League football every season is a very difficult balance to strike. Shearer was clear. He thinks the plan will never work. And while that might be a bit too strong, his underlying point is valid. A football club cannot have it both ways. You either accept that building through youth means going through difficult periods where results are inconsistent, or you bring in proven, established players who can deliver results right now. Chelsea have tried to do both at the same time, and it has created confusion. The most successful teams in Europe have a clear identity. They know what they are. They either build patiently, or they spend on proven quality. Chelsea have been doing something in between, and the results speak for themselves. So where does this all leave Chelsea? If you step back and look at the bigger picture, Chelsea are a club that has enormous potential but cannot quite get out of its own way. They have talented young players coming through, they have money to spend, they have a huge supporter base around the world, but they also keep making decisions that hurt them, letting go of managers who do not fit the mold, buying players in bulk without always thinking about how they fit together, hiring and firing and starting again before giving anything the time to truly develop. The story of Mo Salah is a perfect example of what happens when you do not get those decisions right. A 21-year-old who was not ready became one of the greatest players of his generation at a rival club. The story of Maresca is another example, a manager with real ideas, gone before he had the chance to prove himself. And now Rosignol is under pressure, the Champions League is slipping away, and people are already talking about the next manager. Chelsea need to decide who they are and what they stand for, because right now they are a club with a lot of plans and not enough patience to see any of them through. The good news is that it is not too late. 7 games remain. Champions League football is still possible. Fabregas is interested. Young players are developing. The foundations are there. But the question is whether the people running this club are willing to do something they have struggled to do for a very long time. Trust the process, back their people, and stop changing direction every time results get difficult. What do you think Chelsea should do? Should Rosignol be given the rest of the season and the summer to turn things around? Should the club make a move for Fabregas? And do you believe the current model can ever deliver a Premier League title? Let the conversation continue. Because with Chelsea, there is never a shortage of things to talk about.